As I'm sure most of you know, there's so many remote platforms you can use. So many. I kind of highlight two of them in here. The first one is Skype. So this just kind of shows step one, step two, step three. It's kind of confusing if you don't know exactly what you're doing. You click the Meet Now button, but you can schedule it for the future. So just because it says Meet Now doesn't mean that you have to meet right now. You can schedule it for a different time. You can send it out just like it says in step three. You can copy the link, send it through email, Facebook, whatever's easiest. And a big thing to remember is you do need an account in order to create and send a meeting link, but you don't need an account to accept it. So if somebody sends you one, you don't have to go through the process of creating an account. And if you did want to create an account, you just go to skype.com, and that's the emblem. You'll see it right there. That part's fairly simple. I don't find myself using Skype as much personally. Most people that I've been working with have been more comfortable with Zoom, but it does seem to be common enough that we wanted to mention it. And there are some links in the resources at the end, which we'll get into, that walk through some of the different features of Skype as well. So Zoom, what we're all on now. So I think everybody at least knows how to join in to a meeting, and they've changed some rules around with the passcodes, waiting rooms, things like that. So I know it looks a little different when you're hosting a meeting compared to just joining a meeting. You have some more options. And again, there's some resources at the end here that have some more detailed videos. But these are the two main screens that you'll see when you're scheduling a meeting. Fairly straightforward. Like I said, we're all on Zoom, so you at least know how to get here. The second window where it says step two here just shows kind of what that looks like when you hit schedule a meeting or when you hit schedule. And it gives you all kinds of options. Most of them are predetermined for you, so you don't really have to change them, but you can change little things like having your video on when you join, asking other participants to have their video on. You can select different calendars so that when you hit that blue schedule button on the bottom of that second window, it will automatically add it to your calendar. So you don't have to mess around with trying to add it separately. And then you can add in other people's email addresses that you need to send it to as well.
And if I may add something here, as you were talking, it reminded me of something. So all of this, because I mainly use Zoom too, and you'll see this when I present my stuff. What's interesting is I don't know how many times I scheduled appointments for PM. And it's just you're going to make mistakes where it's like, wait a second, I don't want to meet tonight at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. So, just it takes a while to get used to it, to pay attention to all these pieces. And even for us at Snohomish County, our team, we would get these Outlook invites, and it said, it would really say 12 a.m. when in reality it was actually noon. So all kinds of mistakes were made in setting this up originally. We did not start all of a sudden, boom, we know what we're doing. And it was really a trial by error and just learning along the way. One other thing I wanted to point out, because I love that Christina added this actual image of this, is in these advanced options at the bottom. One of the things I always add is letting people join before me, because that's going to prompt me as the creator of the schedule or scheduling the meeting. It's going to prompt me that people are there, and it does too with waiting rooms, but I like people to be able to join because then I know they're there, and it actually like, okay, they're there waiting for me, just like if I were rushing in my car to get to them. And so it just always prompts me to like get going with that. So I just wanted to point out a couple things about it.
No, those are all great things to add.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other advanced options that you can do. Virtual backgrounds, there's tons of fun stuff you can do in Zoom too. I've noticed a lot of my customers prefer Zoom just because they can have a cool background or annotate on the screen or draw on the whiteboard and just kind of have fun with it. Things that we would do normally in person just makes it a little bit more exciting. So I know that I've seen a lot more people lean towards Zoom because of the fun options. That and the reactions. We've all seen the new reactions, I'm sure, that came through. So we've got those. I know I've have lots of customers that enjoy playing around with those. So there's lots of fun tools that you can do with Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my virtual or my remote process. It's similar to what it was before, but still different. It obviously starts with an intake where we gather information. And one of the best parts about that, me and Melinda have both said, is you're able to include so many more people remote because they can join in wherever they are, whether it's Zoom or they have to dial in. So you can get the customer, their mom, their dad, their brother, their guardian, house staff, caregivers, whoever they feel most comfortable having with them. Um, I've done virtual meetings where grandma can't figure out Zoom, but grandma can call in. And so she's still there just like the rest of us, and she's able to put in her 2 cents and help answer questions. And I haven't been having people send in for BPQIs because signatures are hard right now. So when people aren't super sure of what their benefit is, which happens, sometimes mail doesn't get kept. People know I get a lot of people tell me, oh, I get SSA. That's the type of benefit, which we all know isn't technically a type of benefit. It's the organization. So I've been having them create their own My Social Security account, which states right there what kind of benefit they have, so that I'm sure that I'm getting accurate information, and that's been a huge help. And I haven't had any struggles with figuring out what type of benefit they're on. It's been fairly simple. Then, of course, there's the plan writing, so completing the report. Um, I do give them the option. I have some secure envelopes, so I give them the option for me to either send it via mail or email. Uh, 98% have chosen email and they've just used their personal email. I make sure that I leave social security numbers, pertinent information out of the plan. So it's just kind of a summary of everything without their information in case something were to happen. I've had everybody so far has been very comfortable with it. And as Melinda was saying earlier, I've been doing so many more benefits plans lately than before because of all the new nuances that are going on and all the new questions that people have. So lots of plan updates, and just about everybody's requested it via email. And then the other thing we're able to do is the review together. Again, it includes their entire team. Everybody gets to be there. Everybody gets to ask questions at the same time. And I can share my screen so they can see the report just like they would if we were in person. They have a copy if they can't see the screen very well. They have the copy on their end, and I can share my screen so they have multiple ways of viewing it so that we can go over it together. I've also had customers practice sharing their screen when we do that, which is good practice with the world that we're in. Zoom is a good tool. So that's the other benefit of doing it this way is not only are you helping them with understanding their benefits, but you're helping them learn a new tool. And learn something new for themselves that they can utilize in other ways. Education. We've been doing Zoom interviews like crazy over here, so it helps them kind of understand that technology. It's so many benefits to it. Benefits to the benefiting planning. And that's kind of a summary of my process.
And before I go into my process, I wanted to mention something that I thought of when you were talking about Zoom. One thing to realize with Zoom is that there is, of course, the Zoom app, but there are also, like for myself, when I work with my Zoom account, so Snohomish County, each department has their own Zoom account, and then under ours, we have there's 9 of us, we all have a Zoom underneath that account. So, everybody's going to set theirs up differently. Mine is a HIPAA account, so it meets all the HIPAA standards. And so there's just different levels around Zoom accounts. But what's interesting is, excuse me, the app itself, you really don't have a lot of options for settings. So once you get a Zoom account going, to go into your actual account on a website versus the app, you can go in and just look at tons of settings that you can change. Everything from starting recording as soon as you start a meeting, or whatever that looks like, making people instant hosts or things like that, or how do you want people to enter the Zoom meetings. So there's just tons of settings, advanced settings, and just playing around with that and getting to know Zoom. It takes a little while, but there's a lot of things you can do, but just knowing that the website is where you're going to go to do all those setting changes. And then the app is really, I have both. I have the app that I access to schedule all my meetings. And then what we also do at the county, just because there was a time when we were letting people use our Zoom accounts, some of our contractors, because they weren't quite up and working yet for them. So where we would set up Zoom accounts for our contractors meetings. And so what we do when we schedule on ours, we use Outlook. And so we categorize Zoom meetings. If we've set it up with our own account, we make them yellow. And so we categorize as yellow. So if you looked at my schedule, anything yellow are Zoom meetings. And so I have weeks where my whole thing is yellow because I've got a lot of Zoom meetings, but you can really kind of see how you're utilizing that tool, and how you can look at everybody else and see what kind of meetings are happening. So kind of cool things around that. But I just wanted to mention that app versus the website, because they are very different. And then making sure you're keeping the app up to date and any kind of updates, because they definitely do some cool updates where all of a sudden you can do different things, like what Christina was saying. So making sure you're following that.
Yes, and sorry, not to just to add to that, on the app, so if you're not logging in on the actual website, in your Zoom main screen, there's the little gear up in the top right-hand corner for settings right next to your picture. And if you're just doing it on the app, you have to click on that and go to update in order to actually see the update. It won't alert you through the app, only through the online version. So if you're just, in Zoom meetings all week and you haven't, needed to change settings for whatever reason, just click that little picture of yourself or the little gear right in the top right-hand corner, and it'll let you know. I just had an update that I think everybody had gotten last week or 2 weeks ago, and it gave me lots of fun new stuff to play around with. So just make sure that you're checking that. It will make it run smoother. My Zoom was kind of starting to glitch out a little bit. My camera was getting strange and things like that. And then I updated it and everything's been smooth ever since. So just make sure you're checking for those updates, because it really does make a difference.
Okay, I'm going to go into my process. And if you're anyone, like I wear the blue glasses because my eyes get so funny. This has been a really dark presentation with the colors. Mine is really white, so just brace yourself, because I'm not joking about the eye thing. So mine's a white one, so just it just kind of pops out. I just wanted to warn you. So my process is definitely a little different from Christina's. We do have access to Skype. We have access to Teams. We have, Google Hangout is another one that I've been a part of, but I haven't used for benefits planning. But my choice is Zoom meetings too, for the same reasons Christina was talking about. I love the whiteboard of Zoom, which I'll show you in just a second. So I definitely have, I talked about my three screens. I have that. I'm blessed that I have these 3 screens, because what I do is I pull up an email and I just start typing into it. So, and this is just an example. This is nobody's real stuff. I just kind of put what I would put in this email, and it's a secure email that I can send out, but I just start taking notes as I'm meeting with the person or the family or the group or whoever. And I'm just taking notes of what I want to remember about everything we're talking about. So it's everything. And I'm asking questions and whatnot, and just, this is my notes. And I would normally in person, I'd be writing things down or, typing into my laptop or whatever. So the email is a huge one. So on one of my screens, I have an email up and going, and then there on my Surface Pro is the actual meeting. And then my third screen I use if I need to open any websites. I try to use that as the one I share. And if I have websites, or if I know going into the meeting meeting what we're going to be discussing. I don't always know, right? We sometimes learn things as they are kind of piled onto us as we have a conversation, which makes remote benefit planning even cooler, because if somebody asks about something and you're in a meeting face to face and you don't have access to it because you're at some, coffee shop, here you're like, hold on, let me find it, and you're jumping and pulling things up. And just being able to share, handouts or websites, forms, websites they need to go and apply for stuff. And so what I do is always, I have my notes, and so these are the different steps. I have my notes, I have the next steps, and then I have attachments and websites. And so I will do things where, like, you're going to call this number and this is what you're going to say. And I will flat out say, I am the rep payee for this person, and definitely give a lot of direction on how people can do things on their own. Another thing, in using the whiteboard, which you'll see in my next screen, any other person's going to see that the whiteboards are kind of chicken scratch, but I will attach those, because in Zoom, when you use the whiteboard, when you go, you can actually save it, and it shows you exactly where you saved it, and it will open a window, and then I just drag it and put it right into the email. I don't even think twice. I do it right there in the meeting while we're meeting. And so the whiteboards that appear to be kind of chicken scratch like, I will always explain what they are in my notes. This whiteboard that says this is the math to show you what SSI will look like when you're working part-time, or whatever, something like that. And so those are the kind of things where I can just put it all into the email with the attachments, with the websites, with the things to do, with the task list and all that good stuff. For myself, I don't do huge reports, and I never have. I could, but what I try to do with families is I hear what their main pieces are, I give them that stuff, and then they know what they have, resources and stuff if they need additional, or if they need to contact me again. But what I also do is, and yeah, I don't know if you can kind of see at the top here, I'll email this to whoever they want it emailed to. So maybe it's just them that I'm talking to. Maybe it's the rep payee. For myself, if the beneficiary wants to be there, absolutely, they're always welcome. But for me, I always say I want to make sure at least the rep payee is here. And if the person's their own guardian, they do need to be there too. So that's always been my rule of thumb, the rep payee and the beneficiary. If they want others there, absolutely. If they need to hear this again, we'll make a second meeting, and I'll tell the sister who's going to, step in to help out with rep payee services. So those are the kind of things where now I've got this documented, different things that we've talked about, and now it's an email form. And I don't know about you, but email is so much easier. Just you get an email, you open it, you file it away, you're good, versus maybe you have a paper report, it might get lost, it might get crinkled, might spill something on it. So now we've got it electronically, and it's in their inbox and whatever they need to do with it. But then I always CC myself, because this now has become my case note. Not that I do case notes for my job, I'm not required to, but I am required to track what I do with people, what we talk about and things like that. We do track that kind of stuff in our database. And so now I have exactly what I needed to do with this person and what it looked like. So that's been a really nice piece to do, and having this all right here. Let me see if there was any other thing I wanted to mention before I go into my next one. Another thing that's been interesting about this whole process, because there's been a couple situations of where I've needed to get an interpreter to do remote benefits planning. So first of all, I think we could probably all agree to being an interpreter for Social Security information all in itself is a level that is just like, wow, you're going to be interpreting and translating some very intense stuff. And so then we're going to add the component of remote. Okay, how are we going to do that? What does that look like? So we have been able to do it where we've gotten people on, we've gotten an interpreter. Definitely the meetings are longer, because, and any meeting is going to be longer when you have an interpreter, which is totally fine. You just need to adjust the time. But so that's been good too, because then the interpreter can really focus on the person and watch, are they understanding stuff, and just work together as a group. So it's been a barrier, but it's been something that we tackled pretty easily, and getting things in place to get interpreters involved. Also, Christina talked about signing stuff. We actually are, my coworker Deb, she does a lot of things with students and needs signatures. And we actually have been working with trying to figure out how to annotate. So Christina mentioned annotating. So when you have the whiteboard or a document, there's an option where you can click annotate, and you can actually, you can write on it, you can draw on it, you can put stamps, you can do all kinds of things. And how we started to get to know Zoom, a couple things about, so there, Christina's out of control now. So she's hearting all over the thing. And so you can do that to the presentations. You can through Zoom. So that's why it's a Zoom feature. So she can do that. It's clearly not a PowerPoint feature because she's in Zoom doing that. And so there are ways to do actual text. You can draw, you can do signatures. And so we are for my coworker and I, we're trying to figure out how, if we do need to get things signed, how do we do it? And will they be accepted by the different agencies that need those forms? So we're still working on that to see how that all is going to play out. But a couple things in just getting to know Zoom, because we didn't wake up knowing this. One thing that we started doing, just the team that I'm on at the county, is we actually started doing birthday cards on the whiteboard, and we would all get together for whoever's birthday, and we'd all sign this whiteboard and put messages and text and get to know annotate. And then we saved it, and then we sent it to our coworker who it was their birthday. And it's that kind of stuff is what gets you comfortable with Zoom and just playing around with it before you dive into these big meetings where people are all staring at you. Maybe they have their video off or whatever, and you're running these big intense meetings. Another thing I wanted to mention about just getting to know Zoom, I run the super group meetings every month, which is a bunch of people getting together to talk about benefits planning in Snohomish County. We have it in our contract to work with agencies, and there's actually Sheila and Tina and Tracy, and I can't remember if anybody else was on, but they're part of our super group. And so we meet monthly, and I actually really took it as we used to meet in person, and then we went remote, and we have more people joining us, which is great, like Tina from up in Skagit, she's able to join us. And what's been great, oh, now Lori's out of control. There you go. It's so fun. Go for it. Give it a try. And so Lori, you can keep going. I didn't mean to stop you. You can keep going. But the super group, what I've done is I've actually used that as my testing. Like this next time we're going to meet, I'm going to do some breakout rooms and just see what it's like to do breakout rooms and run them myself. I've been in lots of Zoom meetings where I've gone into breakout rooms that are controlled by other people, but I went into my settings, I enabled the breakout rooms, and now I'm going to try to figure out how to do breakout rooms. And so it's been a lot of testing and sharing and things like that through the super group. And that's what has gotten me a lot more comfortable in doing this with families. And so it's just about practicing. I mean, yeah, when the pandemic started, what's Zoom? What is this again? And then here we are. So it's just moving forward and getting past that comfort zone. Oh, go ahead.
Really quick, if anybody's wondering how to get to the annotate, everybody's screen looks a little different, but normally it's on the top or the bottom of your Zoom screen, and it'll say you are viewing Melinda's screen. And then to the right of it, it says view options. And if you hit that, it will say annotate. On mine, it's the third one down, and then a little bar will pop up with all of your different options for your stamp, your drawing, your text. You can change the color, everything she was saying. So just so that you know where to find that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. Like even mine, it's actually on my main little task thing. So I can just see it right now. It's a little pencil or something. So really, like Lori was doing, feel free to annotate. It's such a great way to get to practice. And, quite honestly, if you're working with someone and the beneficiary is there and maybe they're a little distracted, teach them how to do that. Have them play around with the screen you're sharing. And then now they're, like Christina was talking about, they're using a tool that they can now play with and say, hey, I was in a Zoom meeting and I used some of the features, and then boom, now you're working on the self-advocacy piece of like, what does this look like? So very fun way to do it. I'm going on to the next one, and I think I can't remember if it goes with us. Yep. So you can see I went into the next slide and all those stars are still there because it is that screen, which is always kind of fun. So here's my chicken scratch notes that I do on whiteboards. And when I'm in meetings, these were from all kinds of meetings. And I just went because I went through all the emails that I've sent myself, and I just kind of brought some over that made sense because I'm talking and I'm writing, and I do have a stylus right here. And I do have a Surface Pro, so I can write on my screen, and not everybody will have that, but definitely helpful if you have that option, have a stylus next to you. And I would even recommend one of those pencil-like ones. Mine's still one of those weird stubby ones. But definitely have that available if you're going to utilize this, because it's much more effective than trying to use either your finger or your mouse, because then it just looks like you're just a doctor's signature everywhere. But definitely, if that's an option, I would recommend that. But then these, in just looking at these are examples of when I'm talking to someone and explaining something that there might be need of another visual. But this goes back to, I'm attaching these into the email I'm sending everybody, but I'm also saying the attachment with this means this. Remember, we talked about it. So I'm explaining everything, so they're not just opening up an email 6 months later and they're like, what does this mean? DAC, what? 5757? So then they have the explanation in the body of the email. Super helpful. But if they need to come back to me, they have my email, they know how to get a hold of me, and then we can set up another Zoom meeting if we need to. Let's see.
Oh, and really quick while you're thinking, just in the spirit of learning Zoom, the way you get to this whiteboard is by sharing your screen. So when you hit that share screen button, it gives you a bunch of options, and one of the ones that comes up is whiteboard. So it will open it up for you, and it's just a blank whiteboard screen, and it'll just come up just like we're sharing the PowerPoint right now, just so you know.
Yeah, oh, that's a great point too, because I have 3 screens, when I go to share, all of a sudden numbers pop up in the corner of all my screens. It says 1, 2, and 3. And when you go to share, you have all those options. It'll say 1, 2, and 3, and I can share whichever one, or the whiteboard, or even other documents. It'll help, you can pull up other documents. And then whatever screen you're sharing, you can move things into that screen. Like right now, I opened up a Word document to take notes, but I clearly didn't. I haven't taken any notes yet. But now you can see my Word document. And so that screen now becomes the eyes, or the window into everything you're doing with the person, which is nice. Okay. I have to look at my little thing here. So this goes back to also how the self-advocacy. So Christina mentioned it, and I'm going to mention it too. Since doing this, I haven't had anybody sign a release. If I needed to, I could, because I can have somebody print something off at my office and send it out to me. I don't have a printer. I don't have anything here like that. We're also the county, so we have different levels of security that we have to keep, so I can't have that kind of stuff here. But there are people in the office who can just print out a simple release and send it to somebody within my department, which stays confidential. But the biggest thing is, in that email, when I'm telling people the to-do list, I'm helping them advocate for themselves. And we're even having conversations of, when you call this person and you call and talk to your claims rep, these are the kind of things to say. If they're rude to you, I don't know how many times I've said this lately, which is unfortunate, but if somebody's not being very nice to you, keep in mind, everybody's stressed. Try to give people grace. But you, as a beneficiary to a federal benefit, have every right to say, you know what, I don't like how you're talking to me. Can I talk to somebody else, please? And so I'm even having conversations like that, helping people feel a little bit more confident in, like, it's okay that I have every right to be treated okay by a federal agency, and I don't have to, quiver in a corner. And so I'm having those kind of conversations and just trying to help people ask their own questions. What, you don't get a full SSI amount? Oh, you're not charging rent? Okay, well, here's what you need to do. Here's the local phone number. This is what you need to say. And this is the kind of things they may ask. Be prepared to answer these kind of questions. And so those are the kind of things of really, it has turned into people advocating for themselves. And then what I always say is, let me know what they say. And so then I'll get emails back like, oh, this happened or this happened. And then we'll go back and forth. And if I need to step in again, I will. If they need my help again, I'll give it. So it's just a lot of times they don't call me back, which everybody gets busy. So for all I know, they still needed something. But it's been really great to see that people can get this kind of information and then helping them run with it has been the big thing. And so that's why independently, Christina and I both said self-advocacy. And then when we were talking, we're like, wow, we're both doing this and helping people be better advocates for themselves. And even if it's a parent we're talking to as the rep payee, helping them feel better about having a tough conversation with a federal agency such as Social Security, which normally can be very intimidating. So it's been pretty cool. I think on our end, I think we both can agree just how this has all played out. All right, next one is our goofy moment. Just some things to think about and remember. I already mentioned the forms and signatures, how it's not always necessary, and just trying to figure out what that looks like for individuals. And then also access to these remote meetings. You know, Christina talked about how you access Skype and all these different things, but then just meeting where people are at, where they are at. I haven't done Zoom for everybody. I still have phone calls because they don't want to do Zoom. And so just meeting them where they're at and trying to figure out where that's at. And there was one other thing I wanted to mention. There was one meeting we had, I think there were maybe 7 people and me, so 8 total. And this meeting was for a couple. They're both married. They're married to each other. They don't have access to Zoom, but their whole team does. And so what we did, and this was so incredibly interesting, and we all knew it would take 10 minutes to get this meeting going, and it did. Because what we had to do is we had to get them to call in on one phone, because they also didn't have smartphones where they could just put it on speaker or share a screen. You know, they each had flip phones that they had to turn on themselves and call. So we had to get him to call in and walk him through that process, because we don't have the option in Zoom to call somebody into a meeting, which is the bummer. I wish they had that. That would have been so easy. So we had to get him on, and then we had to get her on, and then they both called into the meeting. They're their own guardians. They had to be there. I was not going to have the meeting without them. And so then it turned into this big, huge meeting, and it was fantastic. And then in the end, the people who were seeing the screens, those were the rep payees. Those are the ones who needed to see different websites of different ways to support their loved ones. So everybody's going to be different, and just meeting them where they are. And then also the no internet access piece, Christina includes the map, the Xfinity hotspots map in the resources. We'll be here in just a second. And so just being able to, like, what's it look like for you to do a Zoom meeting? Maybe it doesn't make sense right now. I've also had it where there's been meetings where the job coach has helped set up meetings, and then all of a sudden they're socially distanced in a conference room, Zooming with me. And so, you know, so looking to see who can help you have those Zoom meetings, and working together around that collaboration, which is great. And then our fun photo is the remote meeting etiquette and discomforts. I think I may have mentioned it before, and this is why we did it, because, you know, everybody's got different experiences with Zoom. Everybody's at different levels of what they understand. And this stemmed from when I was on with a mom, and she had her cell phone and was on with her cell phone. So of course the screen's teeny, and I'm sharing, you know, websites and forms. And so she full on breaks out a huge magnifying glass, and she's reading it on her phone. And that's when her full face was all here, taking up all of my screen with her nose and everything on the magnifying glass. And me trying to be the professional, I laugh a lot, I'm goofy, but I'm trying to keep it together and show my professional side and not crack up. And so that's when we had fun with Christina just being that person zoomed in. So just knowing that people are going to come to the table with all kinds of things, that just trying to stay focused, trying to stay professional, and helping them have a good Zoom or meeting or whatever kind of platform you're using, having a good experience. So it's pretty fun. And then we've talked about this, you know, getting more people involved. It's been great that, you know, people can join us that normally might not, or whatever that might look like. Or maybe it's 2 parents, one's at work, one's at home, and they can't be together, but they're both joining the meeting because they can. So those have been great experiences. Or teachers that need to give some information, or an employment agency, people who want case managers. That's a big one, where case managers, they're not going out to families' homes. I know they're doing 15-minute assessments, or I can't remember, but they just got released to now start seeing them a little. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but you know, these are folks who definitely should be part of these meetings to support the beneficiaries we work with. And so being able to still have people get into these meetings has been great, and just shown, you know, just even more support for the folks that we're working with and the beneficiaries we're giving services to. And so just to emphasize again, supporting that self-advocacy, you know, we're here to help people, empower them, and help them be included, look at all these different things. This is really intense stuff anyway. It's benefits, it's Social Security, but then also adding that piece of helping people feel comfortable enough to feel like they can advocate for themselves. That was a lot. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that so big, but it's fun to talk about because it really is something that it took a while to get going with. And it's been a powerful tool, all of this. And Christina and I both, when we oogle and ogle about, you know, benefits planning and just how fun it has been. So hopefully this helps everybody to move forward with some barriers you might have with being comfortable with remote benefits planning. Oh, and then Christina, the lovely resources.
So yes, so these resources, and Susan posted in the chat that this will be, this slide deck will be put, excuse me, on the WISE website. So these are just some different, they're kind of self-explanatory. So the top 4 are Zoom website tutorials. Some of them are YouTube, some of them Zoom itself, if you get onto the website, not the app, has some good tutorials in there that are already preloaded, ready to go. There's some extra ones there. YouTube, things that I found really helpful that really helped just highlight some of the wonderful things that Zoom has to offer. And then I did, for the Skype websites, I did include the Skype site itself. Their tutorials were not as helpful. So I would recommend using the YouTube videos before what Skype had to offer. Theirs were more reader board discussion type tutorials. So they just weren't as visual, which just, in my opinion, wasn't as helpful as the YouTube. And then that other one down there under other video calling and conferencing apps. So it's another YouTube video, but it lists, oh my gosh, all the different ones from uh, Google Duo, which is an Android, to FaceTime, to WhatsApp, to, oh my gosh, there's so many of them. And you'd be surprised what some of our customers actually already have and know. WhatsApp is a good example. It's basically a text messaging app that comes with a video call option. And a lot of customers have that already, but just didn't know that if they pushed this one button, they could make a video call. And then the bottom one, I think, is possibly one of the most important. Xfinity has hotspots everywhere, especially now during the pandemic. They're adding extra hotspots all over. They even have a van. All their vans are now equipped with hotspots, which will show up on the map. And you also have an option with your own router, if you have Xfinity internet, to allow it to be a hotspot for others. So they won't connect to your internet. It's secure, but you can do basic internet operations. So a lot of times people can sit on their front porch or walk to the park or go to the grocery store or somewhere nearby and get internet access, which can be really helpful in this time when we're all social distancing, and maybe they need to see their family and they don't have internet, so they can find these hotspots all over, and you can zoom in, you can search by address. That link has been really helpful, really helpful. So contact us with any questions. I know me, myself, Melinda, I'm more than happy to help you learn Zoom, more than happy to help you walk through other platforms and talk about this process further. I can share my report that I use, anything that we can do to help. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Please don't hesitate, because we're all in this together, and we understand that it's new and it's a learning curve. So please don't hesitate to reach out with questions or support or anything that you need that we could help you with.
I know in the beginning, we also at the for the team I'm on, we would schedule just testers and have everybody get on and just play around in the Zoom meetings and do sharing and what that looked like. So that helped a lot too. And just coming together and kind of fumbling through it together was really helpful.
Absolutely. So now I will ask, does anybody have any questions?
This is Angela. I had a quick question more about the BPQIs and getting away from signing documents and going to SSA. How are you working with that and clients?
So just asking the right questions, asking what their situation is. At least this is how I've been doing it. Melinda can speak to that as well. Asking the right questions, how much they get, what their family situation is like, their employment history, things like that. You can normally, deliberate some there. And if they really don't know, or they're really giving you mixed answers, they can get a My Social Security account. And that is something I think is a great tool in general, and it will pull up exactly what type of benefit they have, whether it's Title II, SSI, whether it's a disabled adult child benefit. So that's how I've been getting around the BPQI.
And this may not be the answer anybody wants to hear, but I actually haven't requested a BPQI for years. I just, and I know a lot of folks who are newly certified or on the newer side, they're still incredible documents. But what I do is, depending on the situation, I work with loads of folks. Lots of students are mainly the folks I'm working with. So people who are freshly into SSI, they don't have trial work periods, they don't have anything like that. So I think that's kind of how it evolved into where I don't really need BPQIs all that much, because so many of the folks I work with are so new into benefits, and they get either a 1/3 reduction SSI or they get a full check, so it's pretty simple. But I do rely a lot on DDA, where and reaching out to them and having them confirm different things if I need to. But normally the family, what I do is I'll work with them to see what, like Christina, like, what do you get? When is it deposited? How much, do you have any correspondence? Do you have letters to confirm? So I'll rely on the family or the beneficiary or the case managers. And then if I need to, I will, I haven't had to since the pandemic, but then I will get a release and I'll get to Social Security. Releases are still something I can do. It just takes a couple extra steps. And so definitely possible. My actual physical office is 30 minutes away. So if I need to, I can go up there and do things if I need to. So I will. So I go around that with just trying to figure out other avenues to confirm, because DDA generally, they do have up-to-date through their financial unit and everything. They do have up-to-date information of what people are getting from Social Security. Oh, and then I will say, in both the offices, I work mainly with the Linwood office and the Everett office, Everett way more than Linwood, but over the years, I've secured some pretty good contacts there, and even through the pandemic, I've only had to contact them a couple times, but I still have my contacts there where I can ask general questions, and then just feel like, they can step in and help. So I still have my contacts where I can reach out if I need to.
Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna, and Christina, you can do this too. I'm gonna go ahead, since I've stopped sharing. I'll put my email into the chat box. So if you want to contact us, please do. We are here to answer questions and help out. If you want us to jump on meetings and help you get through them, we totally can. Thank you for having us.
Yes, and one more wonderful Zoom feature. In the bottom of the chat, there's 3 little dots, and if you click that, you can save the whole chat. So you can save all this wonderful information that's in the chat being posted by everybody, and it'll save automatically to a Zoom folder on your computer.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
All right.
Later.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.